Well, if I hit all the right buttons this time, we're certainly live on YouTube. Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk Power BI. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that and click the bell so you're notified whenever we go live to present you new Power BI topics and answer your Power BI questions. Today is going to be a special episode though, and I'm really excited about this one. So hey, if you're online, go ahead and say hello to me in the chat box. We already were chatting with some of you earlier. We have Jen here, Brian with his 1 month old, ready to learn. Sam is here. Med says hello. So awesome. And I'm going to say hi to my Learn Power BI friends who's here. Nick, of course, our special guest today. Aziz, James, and Steve. So hello and welcome. And again, if you're online, just drop it in hello. So let me talk about today's episode. So if you have been following me for a while, you know that I ran this. So I've been a big believer in getting real Power BI experience. I really think there's no substitute for that. I mean, the amount of learning that you can pack in when you're working on a project is astronomical compared to when you're kind of practicing on your own and all that stuff. I mean, that is still learning, but what you get out of this is like the real deal. And I equate it to learning tennis. And you could be out there hitting the tennis ball against a wall all day, and yes, it'll improve your form and all that stuff, maybe, but you have to get a real opponent and play a real game to really get good at it, right? So that's the idea behind Real Power BI. And the idea originally was to have my students inside the program get this real world BI experience, either walk through it themselves, actually do both. I mean, watch me go through that. I mean, maybe see my approach and then walk through that themselves. So we have run that inside the class and I will be doing more of that. But today we're going to try a version of that on YouTube and we'll see how it goes. All right, awesome. So Chad is here as well. Hello and welcome, my friend. So let me introduce Nicholas Duvall. He works for an oil and gas company. Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit more about yourself? And hey, by the way, if you're in a place where you can turn your, oh shoot, it doesn't look like you have a webcam. All right, we'll imagine.
No, I don't.
There.
Not this time. I have one on order.
All right, awesome. Just tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, once again, my name is Nicholas Duvall. I work for an oil service company called Schlumberger down here in the great state of Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
And my job is I'm a sustaining manager. And without getting too deep, what my group does is we manufacture, I guess, what you could call engines and transmissions, if we were to make an analogy to a car. And not only that, my group supports worldwide and also internal and external customers. In addition to sustaining, we also have kind of like a side job, what you would call, where we make specialized engines. Customer comes in, they want a supercharger or whatever, to make their engine more powerful, faster, stronger. We have a rapid response program that allows us to generate those type of side revenue generating projects.
Great. So tell me, since you've joined the program, you had shared with me, just talk a little bit about where and how you've used Power BI already. What kind of results
well, I
you've seen
started
there?
using Power BI about 2 months ago, and I think like 99% of everybody else, we searched the great universe of YouTube, and obviously I came upon you and was just devouring everything you had, and then I rolled in the course. But what I use it for specifically is not only to capture this rapid response revenue that we're generating per customer, per month, per engine model that we make. I also use it, and what we're doing now is to try to create time studies, because obviously the more capacity that my group has to do these revenue generating, the more money we're quote unquote bringing in. So when my internal and external customers come to me and say, hey, I need all these projects done, I can use Power BI to say, this is our capacity. Yeah. And also what I'm using Power BI for is to help on a financial side to go, because I have a quite large yearly budget. So I use it from all my expenses versus what my company or my group is budgeted for. So I can see exactly where I'm at in terms of my budget at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's great. So let's dive into today's topic. So Nick, he posted originally a question inside our Facebook group, our student Facebook group, and we interacted to solve a specific one, but I kind of liked the data set, and then we got on the phone call, and I asked him more about where he's going. So what we have here is a set of files that Nick has provided me. So I have them all open, and I'm gonna walk everybody through that. And Nick, you can kind of help me out if I get stuck. All right, so this is our main table, and this is what I would call a data table. So folks, again, I mean, the first step is trying to imagine the data model in your head. And if you have seen, well, I hope all of you have gone through at least the tutorial, which is on YouTube. And of course, some of you are inside my course, so you've gone kind of much deeper. But right at the start, I mean, that's what I talk about, right? I mean, data table, you establish that. And data table, what is that? That represents a business process. And then you ask the question, who, what, where, when, how. So that's a starting point. And yeah, I mean, it's simple. It's odd that just yesterday we had a question from our student, and they were like tying themselves up in knots trying to solve a problem. And it took us a while to kind of get to the bottom of it, but it turned out all they had to do was just set up a structure like this. So it's really magical. So this is our data table, and you can see there's a row being added for each kind of time entry this person adds. There's some more detail here. This is actually a grouping of multiple time entries, but for now we can ignore that. So you can see a person comes in, right, and a specific date. We also have time, but I think we were more focused on the date right now. And then they say what task I was doing, and this is a code which is coming in the system. They may select it in a form, and then this is duration in seconds. So again, another thing, if you had followed some of what I had reported on the Kimberly Marie Real Power BI project, is that you can box these problems separately, and like data entry, like how is the data coming in, that we have kind of boxed out. And we had done the same thing with Kimberly Marie, like, well, that we can solve 100 different ways. We don't really care about this. Same thing here. It's possible that Schlumberger goes on tomorrow and buys a different time tracking system. Frankly, for our purposes, we wouldn't really care as long as it can spit out data in this manner, as long as we get to the data on it. So this is the kind of the data table. And then we're going to have the who, what, where, when, how. So for that, we have two tables. So tell us about this, Nick. So this has...
Okay, so these are random people that really don't exist. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Okay.
But these are three or four different groups that I have. I've just changed the names.
Right.
And these are the different titles that they have. Leads, mechanical engineers, and MCADs are mechanical drafters.
Perfect. Yeah, but of course, if somebody's looking at it, you can have kind of your own structure, your own hierarchy, and typically, and imagine that would be true on your side, Nick, as well. I mean, this has been kind of randomized and kind of limited so we can run it on YouTube. But you probably do have a richer data set, maybe other fields and things like that, right?
Right.
Perfect. Okay, and the next one up is about the tasks. So tell me about that. About the tasks. So tell me.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted my guys to just capture what they did on a day-to-day basis to find out how much capacity that they have. Like on the bottom, you can see sustaining. That's what they do day in, day out. They do this every time. Does this generate really revenue in terms of my rapid response projects? Not really. This is what they have to do in addition. And of course, on the top, the non-essentials, like everybody else, breaks, interruptions, meetings, can't really hone these down other than maybe meetings. And then the rest are like the revenue generating. These are the actual products that actually put green paper in my pocket. So this is what I want to focus on. So I want to see of my pie of a day, how much of that pie slice is big enough to do these projects.
Got it.
And so that's what I'm doing. So we're doing a month-long study.
Okay, perfect. So folks, when I'm listening to... So on my channel, if you haven't seen this already, let's go. There's a playlist about data modeling, and I think in there I do say that initially when I'm kind of interviewing the client, I ignore 95% of what they say. It's kind of awkward having Nick on the call as well. But what I'm trying to say is that initially I'm only looking for that data model that I described, right? So data table, lookup table, and often well, actually, it didn't happen with Nick, but a lot of times people start talking about, oh, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, and often they're describing the reporting requirements. When I'm starting out, I have zero interest in the reporting requirements because if you do the model right, you can create any report they're asking for now, any report they're going to ask for next, any report they may even ask an year from now. That's the power of a good model. If you build it like that, everything else becomes easy. So I don't really ignore 95%. I write it down for later, but I'm only focused on the model. So I think right now, speaking with Nick, um, I think we have a good enough idea of that. So next thing, as quick as I can, I just want to pull data inside Power BI and get going. All right, cool. So I have Power BI open over here. I'm just going to save this file. And we're going to put it Doc Power BI 2018 2018 09 21, and we're going to be time study real Power BI. Okay, that's good enough. All right. Okay, I don't really like these dotted lines. Somehow it irks me, so I'm going to turn that off. Let's make myself not so big. Okay, cool. And I'm going to turn those lines off. Okay, great. So save the file. So yeah, this is an engine, needs fuel. Its fuel is your business data, so we're going to connect to that. Come on, get data. You can do this. And let's see. All right, great. So we have over here, and are they all Excel files? They are. Perfect. So let's bring them in. And let's start with time study. Edit. All right, let's do the next one. So got time study. Let's bring in employee. Oh, I have it open, I think. Close this as well. Okay, let's try that again. And our last Excel file, the task. Okay, let's give them some names. I think this one was time study, I think. This one is employee, and this one is the task. And I know I'm gonna need one other thing. I'll line that up on my second screen. We'll come back to that. And let's go this. And we have all right, let's see how it looks for us right now. So sometimes I get asked about direct query and import. I'll say import is my default mode because it gives you complete freedom in how you operate in the query editor and DAX. The direct query has some limitations, so I only consider that in exceptional cases. Okay, so we have here, so and believe me, I have said this so many times inside my course on my YouTube videos, and my heart always drops a little bit when I look at a relationship view for one of my students and they haven't organized this way. So even in a simple model, you want the lookup tables, which are going to be the one side to be at the top, and the star side, the data tables, to be down at the bottom. So make sure you organize it this way. And I go a little bit further. If you've seen me, I keep my lookup tables kind of small, and I make these really tall, the data tables, just so I remember the analogy, the best practice, if you will, that the lookup tables are short. They're actually, so these ones are squat, short and wide. And these data tables are lanky, thin and tall, or at least that's the ideal shape. That's what you're going for. If you don't have that, you might not be doing things right, might not be thinking about it right. I mean, that's more important. It doesn't matter what the impact is going to be right now. For small data sets, often you don't see an impact, but you're kind of missing the point. So I think for this looks good. Task, we're gonna link it this way. I often have many. Okay, cool. So this is interesting. I think we noticed this in our preview call. So the task was supposed to be the lookup table, but you notice that it wasn't really letting me connect this. So if you look at the tables, the task in this is my data table, so this has these codes. Oops. And if you go to the task, I think so we noticed this earlier, but we also notice it now when we try to create a relationship, that it wouldn't let us, and it was asking for a many-to-many relationship. Again, many-to-many relationships are highly unusual. Definitely don't use them by default. If really anything which does not look like this, either it's a dotted line, or it has those double arrows, or it has stars on both sides, you should be able to explain it to me if I ask, like, why is it that way? Why is it in a simple relationship? That should be the default. So again, I mean, this one we're going to fix in our query editor in the kitchen, and remove the duplicates. So let's go in there. Do task short, so remove duplicates. Perfect. And now we should be able to connect those two. Great. Now, in the October release, we have expected a really huge improvement in the query editor, which is you can preview data sets. What that means is you can connect to a data set and it'll tell you things like, it has 7% of values in this column are blank. The maximum value is this. The most frequently occurring value is this. It has these many unique values. I mean, a lot of this is rich information, and boy, that's going to be really, really cool to start working with new data sets. But often in this world right now, what I do is I throw in a simple measure. Sometimes it's as simple as count rows. Actually, I will do a count rows. Let's just do, sometimes that kind of helps. Time study count rows equals simply count rows of time study. Okay, so we got that, and then we're gonna do another one, which is gonna be I'm not sure what to call it. So what would we call it? Sum of durations? Just sum of duration? Nick, I often stop at like what to name things. So the sum of duration, what do you have a good name for it, or?
No.
Okay, so let's sum
total time?
Yeah, let's try that. Total time. Sum duration. And what if we divide it by would it be easier to process it in hours? or not, or minutes, or do we leave it at seconds? Seconds seems too granular or
Right. Yeah, and that's why I had that DAX set where I turned it into hours, minutes, and seconds. But I actually converted it over to
ah,
hours, just like you are as well. So
yes.
I instead of seconds, I can show hours.
Yeah,
Moved up by like
so
36
that's
times.
interesting. So it seems like what you worked on was actually not showing it as a number, but showing it something like this.
Yes.
Awesome, great. We'll look at that. And yes, that makes sense. But at least starting out, I like a number because you can easily kind of debug it, see if it's working right, and so forth. So we'll see, kind of total time. So we'll start with that. So this is, maybe we'll be specific here and we'll say this is in hours. I like that. So let's just throw those up there and let's just try it. This one, and we'll say total time. Oops, whoa, what happened there? So total time hours, and so again, I just like kind of exploring the data set a little bit. So we'll put that there, and then see what kind of results do we get. Sometimes I use a chart, sometimes I use a table, depends. And of course, I guess it also tests just to make sure that the relationships are working. I mean, I have no doubt right this time, but yeah. So let's try something kind of high level category, and yeah, so we can see that. Now, of course, when you do something like this, mm, uh, you might see an element like this. So Nick, where what do you think is happening there? And is that expected?
No, it's not.
Okay, cool. So this is good. Lets us try something out. So it's like, hey, you see a blank, you didn't expect it. What do you do? So I'm just going to build one other graph, check out the other relationship, which is on the employee side. Employee group title. Let me quickly check what those values were. So I'm trying to understand. Yeah, so you have title. Oh, okay, got it. Group. So I'll pick something high level. So when I'm exploring, I start kind of high level. You can always, oops, didn't want to do that. I wanted to do group. So we have group, engineer, transmit, no blank here, so this is good. So let's just dive into this really quick and figure out where the blank is coming from. So when I am looking into blanks, there are a couple of different ways to do it. And frankly, my favorite way of debugging is connecting an Excel pivot table to the Power BI desktop because I feel like that's so much faster. But yeah, this is still good. So what we're going to do is filter just to the blank. So I'm going to come in here and in the visual level filter, I'm going to say, you know what? I just want to focus on where category is, oops, so sorry, didn't want to do that. Category is blank. And we got that, and we're going to change that into a table. So category is blank 50 hours. Now, if you look at the relationship here, so what I'm doing is, so typically when you have like this is connected through employee, ideally I should hide this column so that there's no confusion, and you don't really need this column because you have this column right there. And the same way for the other relationship, task short, I would typically hide this column so that there's no confusion and you don't need it anyway. But while you're developing it, you sometimes do need both sides. So here, if we think about this this kind of model, this field, where is that coming from? That's coming from task category. So what's happening is there's some, oops, not this one. Let's try it again. So my hypothesis is that there is some task code in here which
I figured
is
it out.
missing it. Perfect. Great. But yeah, but let's see. So in here, so on one side of the relationship is blank. So I'm just going to drag in the other side of the relationship. And it should just show me what it is. And there we go, right? So it's just missing one. And that's going to be an easy fix. We can just go back and fix the source table.
Train should be training.
So the code should be training or wait,
The short task should be training, or the task name.
well, it seems like
Well, I had an individual whenever they were creating it had train, and everybody else had training. So I brought that person in. So
okay, got it.
that's why it's
But
blank because it's looking for train and it's not there. So we need to switch the train to training, and then it'll work.
got it. Okay. Where is
So in the
training?
times,
Got it, got it. So in the other, if I look there, oops, didn't want to do that. I wanted to drill in category task, full task, short. So if I drill into other, I would see what is other. Oh, that's interesting. I don't see training here. Drill down.
is it right there, that blank?
Um, well, yeah, I feel like this needs to be train because in the
Okay,
data, we're coming in training.
it looks like it's trained.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I got
Well,
back.
so I think that's an easy fix. We can kind of capture that. Come back to it. Let's go back to our data set. So the relationships are generally working. We kind of dove in, looked at the blanks a little bit. Mm, 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 mm. Oh yeah, interesting task training. Let's just
Yeah,
try that.
it should be trained, not training.
Okay, let's just try that. And you can just refresh one table at a time. Refresh data. Let's see if it fixes it. Ah, perfect. So the blank is gone. So we're good there. Now, of course, so if you go back here, you just ask the who, what, where, when, how. So who is the employee? What are they doing as a task? Where? I mean, we could have location. Imagine we have different branches. Actually, that may be a property of employee. May not apply, and that's okay. Sometimes things don't apply. When we do have the date, that's almost universal. So far, I've never worked with a model which didn't have like a date or a calendar table. And that's the rule. If you have a date, you got to have a calendar table. Although what we're going to do is we're going to make one change. We're going to truncate the time for now. And we're just going to focus on the date itself. You can, of course, kind of do both, kind of analyze calendar and time. So in here, I think the easiest way is just change it to a date. And it gets rid of the time. And while I'm here, I'm going to copy my ultimate calendar table. If you haven't grabbed that, that's right there on my channel under playlists. Ultimate calendar table, and I'm just going to copy paste that in. Okay, let's see how people are doing on Facebook. Guys here, Alex, right? It's not about the cell. Gene says hello. Ryan Mullins, look up his dimension. Yes, that's right. So what's happening with the? Oh, there we go. So the data warehousing terms, if you read Kimball and such, well, yeah, it's they call it dimension and facts. I've never been a huge fan of that, and certainly from Excel background, which is what I have, the data lookup table kind of makes sense. So I use those terms. Two fact tables. You can have as many fact tables as you need. A fact represents a business process, so that's three-legged pony ride. I love that name, by the way. Is asking that. Like, can we have two facts in a single star schema? You can have many, and so one business process, one fact table, and the model that I had in Microsoft, we had 4 lines of businesses, courseware, exams, press, e-learning, and they all had their own fact tables. Overall, we might have been getting close to like 100 tables or something. All right, so calendar table has its own set of rules, all described on my playlist, that how it's supposed to work, how you can modify it to work for you, and on and on. I'm not going to talk too much about that. The key rule is that it should span your data set, and this one does because it goes to the end of 2018. So we're just going to load that in, and that should complete kind of our model for now. For now, of course, if things change. So date, we connect that, and we're going to run the same kind of test again. So the same thing here, and we're going to check. Maybe a simple, let's start with a simple table in here, and I'm going to take all of this out and just check on my calendar. Is it working by by date. Oh gosh, what does it do? The hierarchy. Don't do that. I can't even delete it now. Yeah, Chad, Michael, good work. Okay, cool. So this is working. I realize that do have some fixes here. I'm just gonna quickly format it to a shorter format. I'm gonna sort the month by the month num and the month long. Probably not gonna need it, but and weekday. So again, this is all covered in the calendar table playlist on my YouTube channel. But it looks like, it's working. We have kind of a smallish data set date-wise, but it's growing every day. And oh wait, I had something filtered, so this is big enough actually. Okay, let's sort it by date. And yeah, so it seems to go from September, and of course, we're getting new data every day. So by the way, guys, a little bit of background here. So the way the Nick is actually getting his files is he's getting in a folder, and is it one for every day or one for every day for every person?
One for every day for every person. And then
Yeah.
I bring in the folder.
Yep, perfect. Yep. So yeah, and Power BI, you can just quickly say, just go to this folder, get me all those files, and that's it. So it's not any much harder. Cool. So we have all of this working. So this is great. I guess now is the time to see. So what would be the next question? What would be? Give me some of the questions that you would ask of this data. What would you? Yeah, I mean, imagine it was a crystal ball, could tell you anything you wanted. What would you ask it as you gaze
Well,
into its
first,
eyes? Yeah.
it's how much time do we have? What's our rapid response or revenue generating capacity in hours? Also, what are we spending most of our time on? And then, are we spending it between internal and external customers?
Okay. And how do you define capacity? How would you calculate it?
Capacity, well, when I talk about revenue generating capacity, that's everything that's in the revenue column. Because doing those FEA analysis, simulations, rapid response projects, those are all fees that our customers pay us to provide those services.
Okay. But when I think about capacity, I mean, it feels like this is like the actual. I'm thinking like actual was this target or something like that. Like, I mean, so this is showing that in the past, in this month, for the data that we have, these many hours are spent here. But in my mind, I'm tripping over the word capacity because I feel like, well, we could have. What if we had slashed our non-essential work and minimized our sustaining work? Then our capacity would have been more. So,
Correct.
uh, mm, so
Maybe the word capacity is not the
yeah.
right.
How about we do this? How about we say kind of the number of people we have, and for now we're going to keep it simple and say everybody is working 40-hour weeks and everybody started at the same time. Nobody like joined in the middle of the month.
Right.
And I feel like we can go somewhere from there. So let's try that. So this is kind of interesting. So we can so there are two ways we can calculate that. Two places we can calculate number of employees. One place is just in this table here. The other place is in this table here. Now, if we calculate it in this table down here, what we would get is number of employees kind of active. And in here, we will get total employees. So it's possible, let's say we had 10 employees on the roster, but one of them was out on an extended leave. Let's call him Joe. Let's give it a name. So Joe would not show up here, right? So Joe is not going to show up here. So if we count here, we might get 9. But if we count here, we might get 10. For now, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to simplify that. We're going to say everybody is kind of on the clock and working. Actually, let's just see what the numbers are. So I'm going to go to employee, and I'm going to write a new measure here and say total employee count. By the way, folks, there are so many count functions. I think only used like count rows and distinct count probably ever. So this was employee. Perfect. So I got that. And then I'm going to go to time study. And yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect in this data, but we can just quickly find out. So this is in the time study table. So this will say active employee count equals distinct count time study. Oh, actually time study employee. I have to, for distinct count, you have to specify a column. So again, in one place I use count rows because there the employee is unique. It doesn't repeat. So I can just count rows and that's simpler. It's going to be faster as well for larger data set. In here, the employee is repeated because every day they add these new time stamps. So I use a distinct count there. And now let's do, actually I like a card visual because I can put multiple things on there. Oops, didn't work. That's weird. So I'm going to put total employee count and active employee count. So perfect. So in our case, you know, it matches one-on-one. That's good. But in a realistic scenario, that could possibly vary. Let's just go with, yeah, I'm not really sure, like, in a realistic scenario, if one would be better than the other. Let's just go with total employee count. So we'll go based on that. And how do we count the number of days that we're looking at? So right now, so in our calendar table, so let's take a quick peek at our calendar table. We have data from, I think, 2015, 2014 through 18. So we have every single date in all those years, but it's really only these dates that are active. So we want to get a count of these dates. So let's do that. So time study, I'm gonna say new measure, and I'm gonna say active days count. Ooh, active days count. Now I'm pausing because there's some, there could be some scenarios where this doesn't work, but I think for now we can proceed with this. And if you run into those cases, you can always cross that bridge when you get there. You know, you can always come back and kind of update the measures. A distinct count, and this will be time study and date, right? So if we didn't go to the calendar table for this because that would give us all days and all years. So now we have this active days, and let's just focus on this. Is it with a focus spotlight? Oh, cool. Wow, that is so cool. Love that. So guys, what I did was just turn on here and turn on the spotlight, and that's great. That focuses on this. Oh shoot, it turned it off. There we go. So active employee, and I'm going to add the active days count here. So you can see there were 14 days, and now let's go with, this is a little bit rough, but we can say like, I don't know, available hours, total available hours, something like that. Total available hours equals active days times active employee times I did 8. So 8 hours every day. Let's go with that. And again, add that on there. So 1904. I'm not sure if you need a comma here. Cool. And then let's add up. So in here, let's keep going on this one. Like how many were the total hours worked? So out of 1904. Oh wow, so we have data for that. So Nick, what do you think is going on? Why is it shorter? I mean, I have my own answers in my head, but I want to hear from you.
Well, I think as like that first week, the 9, 4, 5th, and 6th and 7th,
Uh-huh.
Or no, I mean the fourth, especially the ninth. Looks like there's only 2 hours
Oh, I
worked
see
that
what you're
day.
saying. Yeah. Yeah, so
So
you must have
these
been.
are the days we were trying to figure out, the
Yep.
trying to get the Power BI and the spreadsheets kind of
Yeah.
going on. But it's
Yeah.
really not until like 9, 10 where we're actually blowing and
Yeah.
going with actual some hours.
Great. Awesome. So let's
So
see if that was let's see if we have like
because
a
in the first week we
weekday.
only had maybe a quarter of the team, 1 or 2 people, and then on the 10th is when we quote unquote went live.
Okay, got it. So we may kind of filter a data set. So we are working with a good enough data set. Now, of course, there are other ways to solve for this. This happens in finance as well, where like, oh well, yeah, I mean, this we're just picking up or something like that. Um, for example, in Microsoft, we would have future revenue booked for future months, but we wouldn't want to show it because yeah, it would be kind of weird. What was I trying to week sequence num? That's what I was going for. So I was thinking, can we filter it by a week? So let's see, week sequence num, and okay, so let's look at this.
I mean, one other thing I'm trying to figure out too is how do these tasks perform over time? Are we trending
Yeah,
more towards one or are we doing less than another?
how do these tasks trend over time? That might maybe something we can look at right away. Um, do we do more of one versus another?
And another thing that which posted on the Facebook, I wanted to figure out which each individual, what are they working on the most and how much, like, their longest task and how long they actually worked in that.
Oh man, you're making me drool. Yeah, this is
Hopefully one
good
person's
stuff.
major task wasn't taking breaks. So,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. All right, cool. So I wanted to get like a clean cut, and it seems September 10th. Let's just do it by date because the week boundary is starting at Sunday. So for now, we're just gonna come here, and you know what? We're just gonna make it uh, like a. I'm thinking like a report level filter. Let's just go for that for now. So we're gonna say. So I dragged it to report level filter. Oops. Let's try it again. And okay, that's a little weird. Too obvious. And change it to advanced filtering, and say is after on or after. Oops. What was the date that I said? September 4th, right? September 4th.
if you know your data starts on the 4th, couldn't you just change your calendar start date?
Ooh, good point. So there's a few school of thoughts, and I have very strong opinions about it. So this is called a trimmed calendar, what you're talking about, and it works both ways, where you trim it to the start and also the end. You would say, oh, my data ends on September 18th. Why would I ever have a date beyond that? I am strongly against that. I generally start and stop my calendars at like the full year, and of course the year can vary for you. Right now, I'm kind of following the calendar year, January to December. Somebody could have like, oh, my year starts in October, starts in July, any of those, but I typically do a full year, and there are a few reasons for that. For one, I think even if your data is like, oh, it's from January 1 to July 31, sometimes you're going to do projections and things like that. Or for example, for us, we had actual future data. I mean, there were actual revenue which was booked for the future. Like, oh, yeah, this revenue is coming for future. So we would have data and we would want to show that. And then the other challenge is that as you build your model out, typically what's going to happen is that you're going to add more data tables here. And if you start trimming your calendar, and if you have multiple data tables, then you put yourself in a box there. Like, I trim it based on what? Like, what if time study has September 1 to September 18th? This other data thing has July 1 to October 20th. It gets really tricky, and I think it's not worth it because for one, like it kind of trims itself, like September 20th, is not showing me anything beyond that.
Well, to take it a little bit further, and hopefully not to take it away, but is there a way to make the calendar, your ultimate calendar, dynamic to where it looks at the data and it makes the start date the beginning and the end date the last, so it doesn't matter
You
what
could,
data
but
you put in, it all.
oh, I see what you're saying. But if in a single model you have multiple fact tables, so you can do that in the query
Okay, I
editor
get
in kind of the kitchen. You can't quite do it dynamically, not the way you're describing. I mean, there are other approaches where you can say that you can tell that, oh, I'm looking at this data set right now, and that one. Yeah, I mean, you would kind of solve it in DAX, but your calendar table would have all the dates. Frankly, I think it just kind of keeps it simpler. I don't have to worry about that. All
Okay.
right, cool. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised what something happened. I clicked apply, or it's not letting me apply filter on or after, and I picked a date, um, September 4th. That was weird. Apply filter. Oh, sorry, not September 4th. I wanted September 10th. Okay, good. So we have a set number of days. Go back here. Wow, bingo. Okay, that looks really close. So total available hours. Oh man, now and we so let's see which question we solve. So again, question is important, and this is frankly, guys. I mean, I've been working for so many years, but it kind of came to me the importance of this when I was teaching the class on data visualization at University of Washington here with the one and amazing Chuck Sterling, and I'm not even sure if he brought it up or one of our guest speakers, but they talked about that, like what question are you trying to answer? And now I'm of the thought that you should put it up there in like a text. So we'll do that. So let's see. I'm going to pick one. Um, let's let's try to focus on this. And I'm going to reword it. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to make it like big for now. What portion of our time are we spending on revenue generating capacity? Okay, let's put that up there. It's going to anchor us, and I'm going to get rid of these dotted lines. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Let's see. So what percentage of our time are we spending on there? I think we can start kind of with these guys. Okay, well, total available hours, total time, and we'll say revenue. Okay, so now I can filter it to revenue, and so this one filters down. Interesting. Uh, yeah, I feel like there's something here which we would need to fix because, but we can come back to that. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that. Yeah, I feel like this shouldn't change based on this selection. But anyway, let's ignore that for now. Maybe even ignore total available hours for this one. We're just saying how of the total time we're spending, how much of it is in revenue. So I can filter it 481, but I don't want to answer it that way. I want it right next to it. So I'm going to go back to my time study and add a measure. And I'll say time on revenue projects, something like that, equals. So we're going to bring out our magic wand, calculate, and I love reusing measures. So we already have total time in hours. We'll say, yep, I want that. I want exactly that, but just filtered for where it's revenue generating. So if I can take a peek at the I think it's task category equals revenue. And that's it. Really, really simple. So, folks, I was talking to another student yesterday, Tom Farwell, and gosh, he's having incredible success. He talked about the stuff he's doing with at his company, um, doing presentations for the CFO and CEOs and stuff. But we both agreed that if you focus on the model and do it right, uh, the DAX is often very simple. So we add that, and so now we have this number, and let's just make it time on revenue projects, and somehow I feel like I want to see it as a percentage. So I'm just gonna do that, new measure, and percentage is also good because sometimes the absolute number you can't compare it. For example, just think about February versus January. I mean, February has 28 days. January has more. So it's not kind of apples to apples. If you just look at ours, like February will always kind of look bad. Like, oh, what's happening? We will always have a dip in February, which is kind of silly. And other scenarios, for example, if we factor in holidays later on and so forth, then you can do that using calendar table. So I think percentage kind of makes an apple to apple. So we're gonna say now you can use divide. Or you can just use the this divided by that. So we'll say time on revenue. And again, reuse. So I already have these measures right here. I can see them, in fact, right there. So I'm just going to reuse them. And total time hours. So just divide by that. And let's see what we get here. Percentage of time. So about 40% of the time we spend on that. Now this is going to be really interesting. So now that we have that kind of this, we can compare apples to apples. We can take that number and just go to town with it. I don't even think we need this. So we can say, let's look at it by employee. And I want to change it to this kind of chart. So you can see clearly that, yeah, Shelly is, I mean, if that is our goal, and again, you have to be really careful about your goals because if you make your goals too one-dimensional, like if you tell everybody, guys, everybody needs to spend more time in revenue generating, what may happen is that, I don't know, they may not stop showing up at staff meetings or stop doing like regular run-of-the-mill tasks. So yeah, I mean, you have to kind of balance it. But if that is a goal, you can see that it's really different. So Nick, what I'm thinking here is, what if we kind of see it by group? Oh yeah, let's first see it by group, and so clearly, I mean it really varies by group. So electronics is very focused on revenue projects, engine about half and half, transmission not so. Is there something that you go, yeah, of course, because of this, like something you might already know that, yeah, I know why it may look like that?
Yeah, it would. Electronics, like I said, would change the names to protect the innocents, but the electronics group would definitely be more. And like I said, we have internal and external people that we report to.
Yeah.
So electronics would be more towards the external, which has, I guess, more hands in the cookie jar than internal. Where there's only one hand for internal, we have 80 external customers.
Yeah,
so they come in here and.
That is awesome. That's great. So, of course, guys, you have to be kind of careful with this. So, if you already know that different groups have different roles, then I would say then this is the worst thing you can do, put a graph like this out there, because it's going to make one team kind of look bad when it isn't true, right? So if I knew what kind of just Nick described, I would probably never put this there. I would do something else. I would focus on trending within the own individual group. So I'll leave this here for now, but let's just try.
So my thing would be, of each group, how much time of their particular bucket are they spending on rapid response or revenue generating? And then I usually take that to my upper management. You want me to do 50% of my time associated to rapid response, but yet my group only has a capacity of X.
Yeah, that's right. So let's see that. And so let's see kind of the next level. So of course we can do it kind of right here. Oh, man, I'm tempted to put a pie chart there. So I'm a Stephen Few fan, and he does not like pie charts. Let's see how it looks. So we can put here, and in here, if we say, well, we could do percentage time. So percentage time by, if you go to the next level in the task, and percentage time on revenue projects, and we say maybe, so we had the, sorry, I forgot. Oh, the category was the revenue and so forth, and then we have the next level detail, which is task. So let's check that out. Maybe it can be just a table. Let's just try it. Weird. Yeah, tables is great actually. So let's do percentage time by what if he said so how much time is spending. Actually, hold on a second. So I'm going to come back. I think what you last we said. The one thing that I wanted to do was just kind of trend it over time to see, is the performance kind of stable or does it vary over time. So let's try that. So we're gonna grab time study, and I want to grab the percentage time on revenue, and we're gonna trend it by day, let's say. And again, we have a very small data set. So if you imagine if you had it over months or years, it would paint a much richer picture. So yeah, this one, I wonder if we can, let's just try this. Okay, so we got the weekend, I think, there. But for electronics, it stays high generally. Engine team, yeah, it's relatively kind of tight. And again, if you had more data and we would look at it like weekly and monthly, I think it's going to be pretty stable. So that is good.
Yeah, we're gonna do this project for 2 months. So maybe at the end of the 2 months, maybe I can
Yeah, just
capture
and
this.
that's the best part. I mean, you just come in here, and as long as you got, yeah, just have refresh, and maybe change out the swap out instead of date. You grab the week number or something like that. Yeah, Brian agrees on the bar chart with me. All right. So there was something else you were saying here, which I kind of struggled with. So revenue generating, you wanted to see. It sounded like the next level of detail, like which revenue projects are they working on? Is that right?
Well, I don't have it broken. This one was just to figure out where are they spending their time. The next
Yeah.
round, I want to go a little bit more granular on the projects themselves.
Okay, got it. Let's see. Uh, so let's see what we have here. So revenue, if you look into that, what do we see? So we do see breakdown like this, kind of external customer, internal customer, and uh, some of these, yeah. So we do have that. Do we have further breakdown here? Oh, probably
Mm.
not. I think it's yeah, cool. Um, all right, so we have that there. Okay, so I think so let's do one more, and I'm not sure. Maybe we'll check in with the YouTube audience, see what they felt about this, and come back and do one more. So we kind of tackled this one, like what portion are they focused on the revenue, and we have kind of an answer. We can trend it. We can see by different groups. Yeah. What would you like to tackle next in this list?
Uh, what about the individuals? What they're working on the most?
Okay, so this one is revenue focus, and let's just do individual. So we can grab something, maybe even duplicate this one. Let's try that. So you want to look at one individual at a time, and you want to look at all the individuals but see their specific details.
probably see like almost kind of like a matrix of engineer versus task, and then maybe even another one would be, okay, of all the tasks that Shelly worked on, this is the one she spent the most time on with,
Yeah.
and this is the total time. It's
Okay, well, it
almost like
seems like you want to see kind of all of them. Let's try it. Mm. So yeah, so I often just start with simply a table or a matrix. So in here, let's throw in the employee. So if we saw every employee, and I don't know, we may want to see kind of the group that they belong to as well. Title, I'm not sure if that's relevant.
no.
Okay, so group, and then let's make this bigger. And we're just exploring right now. Usually the end result, I don't want it to be table heavy, but while we're exploring, I guess it's okay. And I'm going to keep this up top, just kind of for reference. Oh, I should put my question in there. That's my new thing. Oops, what happened there? Okay, what are the individuals spending time on? All right, we don't. All right, so we have total time hours. Let's throw the percentage time on revenue thing on there, and of course, let's just have some fun. Let's see if we can add some color to it. I'm not really sure how to do that. Okay, there we go. Percentage time on revenue. If we say conditional formatting, let's try data bars. I want it to be lighter. Can it be lighter? Okay, yeah, not bad. Give it some color. All right. Yeah, I think if you ask me, donut is the worst pie chart. Anyway, all right. I should talk about it someday. Like, why does Stephen Few and I guess what do we have against pie charts? It all yeah, I'm tempted to go in there, but I'll hold myself. So percentage times, we have that, and now let's look at we'll have kind of the detail for each one. So we'll have this one there, and we're gonna come on, move this guy there, and here instead of employee group and percentage time, what I'll say is what are the tasks that they're working on? Task category task. Let's try that. So this is, and now if I want, I can check, Aaron, what are they working on, and I can kind of sort it, and I can see it there, that one by one, kind of what is their biggest task or biggest task category. All right, so looking at this, what would you like to know without having to check each one? Their biggest task category. I mean, we already know what percentage they spend on revenue, so we have that for
Right.
each employee. What would you like to see, like next to Aaron?
Like I guess one would be the employee, the
Mm-hmm.
task, the max task, or like the longest task they worked on, and maybe the total time of that task.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. So let's pick one. So for Aaron, it would say new product design work, right? And then let's
Right.
say 4. Okay, so that's what we want. Yeah.
And this was the top end answer you
Yeah.
gave me on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. External customers. So we want that longest task. Cool. All right. So let's try that. So we're gonna go here, and this is gonna be time study, and we'll say new measure, and we'll say I don't know, top task. So top task, and so this is gonna be
And I uploaded the in a text file the code that you wrote.
okay. All right. Let's see if we can mask that. So if we say top n, and n value is just 1, and we're looking at the the task. Let's what if we say values, and we say the task table, and we let's return that full task. I'm usually averse to codes and such. So with values, all we're doing is generating a table, because as you can see over here, that top end takes a table. So we can't really pass it in column. So we're just saying values to create that table for us out of that column. So top end for values, and then it's saying based on what? And I'll say based on the total time. So in the course, I talk about X functions and how X functions are iterators, and I make this whole huge deal of how filter should be called filter X because it's the X function. Well, top n is an X function as well, so maybe it should have been top n X. But yeah, as long as you can keep that in mind, it's an iterator. It goes through row by row, evaluates this, and then it comes back and does the final thing. Like, oh, okay, fine, I evaluated it, and what do you want? Oh, I want just the top one value. Same way as min X or average X, all of those, they work the same way. They go through it, row by row, and then they calculate that expression, and then in the end they say, oh, now I got to average. So same way top end says, oh, I got to figure out the top one. So this one is going to return us the value, but we can't. This is still a table, so we can't return it. Oh gosh. So how would I return the one value? Longest task. Let's see. How's it calculate? Oh, interesting. So calculate selected value. Calculate selected value times task. Okay. Max time duration. Okay. Let's go here. Let's see if this one will work. So this one, let's just try it. So I think let me define the measure, but I think as soon as I add it to the table, it's going to break. That's my theory. Yes, it does, because it's returning a value. So what if we say calculate? So I'm going to say selected value. And I have a feeling that this would, oops, didn't want to do that. Selected, keep doing that, sorry. I'm sure there are other ways to do this too. Selected value, and we're gonna say task full. So give that to me after having applied this one filter. Top n. So now we're converting selected value, just converts it to a single value. So if I did that right, oh perfect. So it did work, and we can kind of cross check our work. Let's make this a little bit small. So if we look at Aaron, see new product design work, perfect. Let's see Bree, external customer engineer work, and Sierra Hayden, external rapid response. So yep, that all looks good. And now if we can figure out how much time did they spend on that task.
Not to throw another wrench in it, but could you also figure out what it would be average time of that task per day?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Let's carve it out. Oh boy, man, you're up in the stakes here, but I like it. So, folks, this is how a real project should feel like. It should always feel like peeling an onion. And I remember the old world where questions like this, where we know you would get a slap on the wrist. Almost. I mean, almost. And this was within Microsoft where we'd go in meetings and, yeah, I mean, questions weren't always encouraged. I mean, you get this look and like, oh yeah, we're working on it. Oh yeah, he knows about it and something like that. And like, so now we want to live in a world where that's kind of encouraged and we enjoy that process. So let's see if we can figure out the how much time did they spend on this. Now, so if you did the top task this way, it might be tempting to then say that, oh, I figured out the top task. I'm gonna figure out. I'm going to use this to figure out the max, but I think that there's a simpler way to do this, which is, I'm going to try it. I have no idea if I want to make it or not, but if I say top task R's, and I feel like we can do max X on this. Max X. So which table? Well, we're going to iterate task by task. So the same thing that we had in the other table, and we're going to say for each task and max X values task. Ooh, actually, maybe we don't need that. So there's an assumption I'm making here is that task full is unique. And I think it's true for a data set, but it may not be true for a larger data set. So you have to be a little careful there. Maybe, but for now, let's just go with that. So for each task, go there and figure out the total time. And that's it, right? So I think that is it. Let's just try it. Proof is in the pudding, right? Top task R's. Oh, what happened here? Oh, there's some weird sorting going on that threw me off. All right, that looks good to me. If you go over here, and let's just collapse these guys. Oh, well, that's not going to give us more space. But if you look at Aaron 4.36, and yeah, so this one we removed the decimal, but that's I would assume that's right. 17. Yep. So that one is working. Great. So we got that one. We almost don't need this. Certainly, we're running out of space here. Okay, cool. Let's see what our friends on YouTube think. All right. So what do you think so far? Let's see. There was some discussion about donut pie charts. So maybe this is a good time to talk about that. So let's put this as a pie chart. Let's just do that really quick. So if you, yeah, I mean this one is a little simpler, but yeah. So actually, this makes a good point. So if you look at this, I mean, boy, actually, this worked out better than I could have imagined. I mean, you can see that this one is smaller than that, but these two are really hard to compare. And frankly, if you were going to put labels on it, guys, that's cheating. I mean, right? I mean, you say 48, 42%, and kind of 30, but that's cheating. But looking at this, seriously, I mean, to me, this, I'm very, I don't know what color that is, light green, and it's great. This looks almost the same. If I didn't know any better, I would know. And certainly, if you talked about how much bigger is it, it'll be really, really hard. So in pie charts, what a human is expected to gauge, to measure with their eyes is the angle, which is insanity. So either you got to judge the angle, which we are really bad at, really terrible at. I mean, you give them a figure like, what angle is that? Is that 45 degrees? Is it 70, 22? We are really, really bad. Or you have to judge the area, which we're also very bad at, as opposed to the length of the line. Now, this one is actually technically not even processed by our brain. We're so good at this that this is processed in an area which is called pre-attentive processing. So kind of we see it and we know it. And this is so precise. This is so extremely precise that human beings can detect a variation of 2 pixels. So if this line was like 2 pixels longer than the other, we would kind of know it right away without even thinking about it. So that one is, yeah, it's just, yeah, the only thing that pie chart has going on for it is that it figuratively kind of shows that, oh, this is part of a whole. But I'm not sure. That's like, is that worth it? And donut, don't get me started on that. All right, cool. So we talked about that a little bit. And cool. Yeah. So Stephen Few, that's the guy I follow. Okay, cool. So hopefully, Chad, what is Chad and Sam talking about? Yeah. Actually, I did want to do a chart of this thing over time. Let's see how it's going to look like. Um, so total time, just going to make some space for it. Move this up top. Um, by the way, I didn't pay that much attention here, but in my tutorial, which is also available on YouTube, and of course in my course, I talk a lot more about that. I have this pattern where I put high-level numbers up top, then some breakdown, trends, and detail. So what I wanted to do was take this one and trend it over time. And we don't want that. And legend. And ooh boy, I'm kind of excited. And again, we don't have like we have
Did you see the thing with Regina?
and I would love to see this over over time. This is interesting. Actually, it might be better do like 100% chart. I'm just playing with the data right now. Let's try this. Okay, so the weekend thing is a problem, but no, okay. Frankly, it didn't turn out as cool as I thought. Let's try go back to this one. Okay, we'll leave that one be. So Carl is asking, I saw a Power BI tab in Excel. Can you show that to me? Mm, I think just the so friends help me out. I actually haven't tried that either, but now Excel has custom visuals, just like Power BI has custom visuals, and you can bring that in. I'm not really sure how to do it, so hopefully somebody else can answer that. Insert Office 365, yeah. So I know the idea is that just the way Power BI has custom visuals, this has custom visuals now. I know how to pull in custom visuals in Power BI, but don't know it here. And as a result of that, you can pull in kind of some of this stuff. I haven't meaning to play with that. Cool. So let's go in here, and maybe this is the last one we'll do, which was the peeling the onion question, average time for the task per day. What if I change that question and say this? So I know that Aaron spent, so I have no idea if it's going to apply, Nicholas, or not. Aaron spent 4 hours on this. That was his top task.
And I guess just divided by the number of days he actually worked on that task.
Yeah,
Because I guess that's the top task. That means out of all the week, he worked a maximum at one time at one day of 436. But that's just the top. He might have worked less or more throughout the rest of the week.
Well, we can always kind of trend it. Yeah. Yeah, so this is show for all that selected time range, and the selected time range that we have working on right now is not really weak. It's just the data that was kind of good.
Oh, yeah.
So September 10th to 20th. But what I was thinking was that if we have like Aaron spent 4 hours, and this was their top task, but maybe by group, so let's focus on a single group. Maybe it'll be easier to talk about. So let's focus on employee, and we say group, and I'm going to make that a slicer. And if you focus on transmission, so what I'm thinking is that Aaron's top task was new product design work. But if we look at everybody, the whole group, how much time on average per person did they spend on new product design work?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Just compare it. So let's say, so well, this person is like heavy on product design work. So yeah, I think it's gonna might be interesting. I mean, just to be
I
able to
love Lucy.
compare it.
Her top task are meetings.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because she's my team lead, or that person is my
There you
team
go.
lead.
Yeah, yeah. So and of course, data kind of goes with your intuition. You always have to kind of factor that in. So that's great. So you want to try that, where you say, "Hey, Aaron, new product design work, but what's the average that the team spent on new product design work?"
Right.
Okay. So for me, I'm trying to think, how would I solve it? Like otherwise, like if I wasn't using DAX, how would I do it? Well, I would go to the whole team, and I would say, wouldn't worry about top task, this one either. I would go on the task full. Oh, actually, I do I need employees? Let's just do employees, and let's do new product design work. Does that work? Nope. Okay, let's try this. So task full, and make that a slicer, and I'm gonna mess with the format a little bit. I'm just frankly getting a
Do a
feel of the
matrix of
question.
employees and then date, and then the values would be the task.
Sorry, say that again.
No, no, I was wrong.
Okay. What was I? Okay, that's good. So here. All right. So now I want to focus on new product design work. If I go find that new product design work, cool. So what I'm trying to do is that I have this number already. I want to calculate kind of this number and divide it by the number of people. Ooh, this is going to be interesting, because do we take only the folks who worked on the new product design work, or everybody in that group? We might start with everybody in the group. So um, yeah. So in the sense, let me change this one a little bit. Employee. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I'm trying to do is, so we have 4.36, but then I want to take kind of 61, and some people did work on it, some people didn't work on it, and I just want to kind of divide that by all of them. Boy, so let's go here, and let's see how we can figure out that 61. So I have that top task, and I have that top task, and what I want to say is calculate all. Okay, I'm just going to take a shot, see if it works. So modeling new measure. So what I want to calculate is the total time hours, no doubt about that. Oops. So we'll say top task whole team hours equals, so I want to calculate total time. Interesting. And we filter the task the same way we did earlier. Full. Total time hours. So it'll give us that one task, but then we want to clear the filter on employees. Okay, I mean, I feel like in theory this should work. Let's see. So we come back here. Oops. And All right, that's great. Total time. Oops, didn't want to do that. I wanted to see top task whole team hours and change that to 0. Oops, didn't work. Top task whole team hours. I went there and I said 0. Oh, it did work. Just took some while. So great. Yeah, we got it. And actually, I wouldn't do the rest of the steps because it's going to be really, really simple, right? So we have the 61, and then we're going to do, actually, you know what? Let's just go through with it. Let's calculate, and let's use the variable approach that Matt taught us in the last bar. So yeah, folks, if you missed that, I don't know, last week, last week actually, Matt Allington presented how to use variables, and that was great. So we're going to say top task whole team hours. So we're going to go in here and top task whole team. Let's just do this. Top task working measure, and we'll say variable. Can I have whole team hours? How do you do? You know what? I wouldn't do space. Let's just do it this way. Whole team hours. So we had already calculated that, and we're gonna do one more. We'll say team member count. Oh, this is this might be. Let's see. So what are we gonna say? How do we count all the members in that team? We can do calculate, and we can do count rows, employee, and clear the filter on the employee name. Just that, and let's test it. Let's see what is it returning. So we already know that the whole team hours works. So we're going to return the team member count and see what that returns. Let's try it. That worked. Cool. So 7. That's what I wanted. So denominator is always 7 because that's how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have both the numerator and denominator. And now I'm just going to change that to say, well, I actually want the average hours. And I think that is our final measure, so we can give it a proper name. Top task average hours by average hours spent by team. Whoa, I can't wait to see this. So let's go here, and what I wanted to do was top task hours. I wanted to remove the decimal. So you can see here that Aaron, he spent 4 hours on design work. So Aaron Byers, I mean, we saw his hours. I mean, his total hours are really small, so this one kind of looks weird. There's something going on with him. Maybe he hasn't reported all this time or something. Maybe it was a vacation. Let's look at Donnie. So Donnie really worked hard on internal prototype testing, because you can see that for average for the rest of the team is pretty small, 3, and you can see this one for Joelle. Yeah, she's really focused on product design work, right? 29.9, and you can even maybe bring up a ratio of these two to kind of get a sense of how focused are they, right? I mean, imagine if this is a really large number, like 17 divided by 3, that's almost 8. This is 3. So you can see that Donnie is in his role, he's really focused on prototype testing, something like that. I'm not sure where you go. Again, peeling the onion. Cool. All right, so let's kind of stop our real Power BI project there, and let me ask you, Nick, that so we already have this. Which direction would you go from here? Just curious. We want to know how you would pursue this.
Sorry, you cut out for a second.
Well,
Where,
so
where would I go from here?
yeah. So we're gonna kind of pause, stop the real Power BI. I think kind of this part of episode here. But yeah, I wanted to ask you that seeing kind of what we have here, we kind of focused on two questions, kind of the revenue focus and getting individual detail, and we seem to have a good handle on that. Would you?
Right. I really like the individual detail.
Uh
After we
huh.
do this for an entire month or two,
Yeah.
then I'll be able to use like the revenue focus. That was kind of like a secondary
Got
because
it.
then I have like another Power BI where I'm actually capturing all my rapid response revenue. So then I can use this capacity, figure out what they're working on, what we can start honing on,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can go to my upper management. If you want me to work on more revenue projects,
Yeah.
and then I can use both the revenue Power BI and then this time study to kind of give me some support to increase my
Oh,
group. And that's what I've done in the past. My group
I
was
see what you're
5
saying.
people, and then I've increased it now almost double or
Wow.
triple.
Wow, that's great. And so if I'm understanding you correctly, I mean here we have like the time numbers, but in here, let's go back to this one. So if you drill into the revenue, they were what you're gonna do is you actually gonna bring in the actual revenue that comes in from these projects, like the dollars. Is that
Right.
what you can do? Wow. Yeah, and really see that. Hey, look, dollar impact, dollar impact. Yeah, that's gonna be
Right.
really powerful.
But I see that our simulation revenue is really like the fifth
Yeah.
or third from left or third from right. At
Uh
that
huh.
simulation where companies are coming in and we're doing simulation work for them. No, third from right. The
Oh,
like
okay.
the
Yeah.
front.
Oh, got it.
If we've got
Simulation.
a
Yep.
lot of revenue, but we're putting low hours onto it, then I can say,
Yeah.
hey, look, if
Mm-hmm.
you give me more people to do more simulations, the bang, quote unquote, bang for the buck is going to
Yeah.
make us more revenue.
Yeah, that's great. So, guys, I mean, the whole process I talk about, peeling the onion, the goal there is not just to have fun. I mean, well, you can have fun, you should have fun. But typically, the process, the journey is that it makes the data, the report, a lot more actionable. So, it's really going from kind of that journey from data, information, knowledge, wisdom to finally action. I mean, unless you act on it, it's kind of useless. So, I see where Nick is kind of headed there. Like, compare these numbers with actual dollars. So, make a call that hey, yeah, we should be focusing on people to be working on these projects, we should be hiring here, this is where we don't need people, something like that. So yeah, that's great.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, man, great. So you're gonna have access to this. That was awesome. Let's check in with our YouTube. Let's check in with the folks who are on the phone. So Jimmy, good to have you here. Jimmy, Steve, what do you guys think about the project, the approach? Yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And on YouTube, okay, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I had to step out for a bit, so I didn't see everything. But I really like these real world projects. I think they're
Yeah,
very helpful just to see what everybody else is doing, and because if you're
yeah,
stuck on the same project all the time, you don't learn anything new.
I feel that.
So
So
I found it quite
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So so there was a phase in my life, Washington Mutual, where I thank you, Jen. So Jen likes it too. Brian liked it. He said, "Please do more just like this." Awesome, that's great. So guys, there was a time when I lost my job at Washington Mutual in the financial meltdown, and it was the hardest phase in my life because there was so much going on. I lost my job. The bank went belly up in September, and our daughter, our second child, was going to be born in December. So I was just at my wits' end. But I also dove into a lot of kind of self discovery because I was so breakthroughs come from breakdowns, right? So I certainly had a huge breakdown, but then I dove into this strengths finder and a whole bunch of Malcolm Gladwell books, and and in one of his books, maybe one of you can remind me which one, he talks about this 10,000 hours thing, and he said, look at anybody who was at the top of their game, top of the field. They have spent roughly 10,000 hours. And he takes the example of Beatles, and their story apparently, I don't know, was that they went to Germany and they would play in these places where they would be playing all night, and it was hard work for sure, but that gave them the reps to put in, get close to that 10,000 hour mark, right? So I'm thinking about, frankly, for myself, I mean, I feel like, I mean, of course, I've worked on a lot of projects in the past inside Microsoft, outside Microsoft as a consultant, helping out students and so forth. But I feel like, of course, so I enjoy doing it. But as part of that, if the students certainly, and of course the YouTube followers as well, if I can enable a way that everybody can get a lot more reps, right? A lot more reps. And like, whoa, I mean, I worked on this project. Yep, I saw this. Because I think what happens is that pretty soon you start kind of figuring it out. And I'm always stunned by how a lot of problems now, they all look like AdventureWorks to me because it's the same patterns. Anyway, so thanks, Steve. Thanks for that. Folks online, thank you for your support. Thank you for joining. If you had any specific questions, actually, Jen, I want to talk to you. You want to talk about forecasting, so let's talk about that. Uh, okay, Jimmy, if you found the controls, yeah, I would love to hear from you as well. So go ahead. I know it's sometimes hard to find the mute button. It's yeah, but let's see what else. So Garrett agrees with that. Real life projects are the best to learn. So another thing that I would share is, so I taught a data visualization course at UW. I hope. Well, actually, if it's okay if one of them are watching. But what I saw was, so certainly there were some folks who were really good, but there were some students which I didn't know what to think, and I didn't say anything at all because I thought about the effort that they had put in. They had been working on this program since January, right? So juggling a job, kind of part time, taking time away from family. It's hard. I know it's super hard. And I saw the progress of some of them. And again, some people always, they're always like ahead of the curve, right? I mean, they're always like a sponge and so forth. But some of them, they hadn't really made that much progress. And I thought to myself, if they spent 2 days kind of working on a real project, I felt they would gain more. So great, love all the feedback. So Jen, why don't we talk about forecasting? And let's try it again. I tried this in the challenge, and it kind of worked. Or I'm gonna have you try to call in. We'll see. And fair warning on the folks who are on the GoToMeeting with me, that somehow I can't batch those two audios together, so you would not hear Jen. But let's try it. Okay, let's see. If Jen, you're up for that, yeah, I should ask you. Are you up for calling in? Are you in a place where you can call in? Or if you can't, then we'll just talk about forecasting. I'll just ask you questions. Oh. What is that? Okay, let's try it. Friday, 12 recurring. Okay, good. Sorry, I thought I had set it, but apparently not. Okay, I got it. All right, so Jen, oh, maybe later. Okay, so but you can't hear, right? So let's talk about forecasting because Jen was so patient. She had asked about it right at the beginning. So Jen, first thing I'm gonna ask you is that, are you looking for forecasting in a visual or like in DAX? And if that doesn't make sense, I'll just show you both. Hey, Jared, good to have you on, my friend. Okay, let's see. So, So, forecasting, I don't know why that's taking so long. You can do it in a visual, in not all visuals, some type of visuals. Let's just do it. It's gonna be easier to show. So if we go to, let's just go to sales. And we're gonna take kind of budget, and maybe what if we show it by kind of month, year? Okay, let's try that. Now I haven't done this in a while, so I may have forgotten. I have forgotten. How do you add a forecast to this? Analytics? Oh, what if we said date? Okay. Perfect. So yeah, it depends on, you have to have the right chart type and the right axis. But then if you do, then it enables this forecast, and I can just kind of add it there. And I don't know, 50 points, and it has some settings there, and you can see that how it's doing now. So that's one way. It turns out that this actually didn't do a good job. There was another way to do forecasting in visual is using R script visual, which I'm not sure I'm brave enough to try right now. R script visual, enable. I give up. Yeah, it's very powerful. I'm just not savvy in R. Yeah, so you can do it in visual, and I have done it. So for those who are in my course, that you've seen that in the visualization, I do an R version, and that actually does a better job, because here you can see that our revenue is actually growing. I mean, I can see that too. But what the inbuilt Power BI one does is it kind of flattens it. It has a cyclical nature for the months, but it flattens it. So, but the R visual does correctly project that it's going up. So that's that. So yeah, so R, if I swear, if you know R or Python, which is the new thing here, you can go way beyond this. It's I can't do it justice, so I wouldn't. But the other thing is you do it in DAX. Now, folks who come from Excel background, they have talked to me about two functions, trend and forecast, which are available in Excel. And I have asked, and of course I have looked, they have looked. There is no equivalent in DAX as far as I know. So, I mean, you kind of have tough choices if you want to solve it in DAX. Of course, you can do a much simpler version of that. So I'll just throw out a few different ways you could do it, right? We probably wouldn't do it, but let's say one approach would be, actually, this might work. So for those who follow the Kimberly Murray project, this is what I'd offered her. What I had offered her was that she could like do a dial, like almost, it's not a projection, as if a what if analysis. So it'll say, what if we grew by 5%, 10%, 2%, 3%, and you can kind of let them, kind of turn that dial, turn that knob, and it'll project based on that. So you can do that. And so if you have cyclical, you can just let them turn the dial and then say, oh, look, compare year over year month, get the last year's number, increase it by whatever percentage they specify. If they say 5%, just bump it up by 5%. So build it that way. Other is you can do like a linear projection or something like that. So basically do that math for yourself. If you keep it simple, it's possible, but to replicate kind of some of the smart models like R and Python, you can't. I mean, those are way smarter. Okay, cool. So Jen, yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of covered it. Let's see. I'm not sure I can help you beyond that, but let's just try the phone call because I did want to test it. So Jen uses this. All right, we're gonna try. Oh wait, I have to start the meeting too. All right, so Jimmy, Jarrett, Nick, I forgot even to thank you. So Nick, huge thanks to you providing the data set, hanging out with me today. It was a real adventure, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, great. All right, so guys, I guess we will end on Jen's question after we chat with Jen. Okay, Chad liked it, and cool. Let's see who else is still on. Nice. So Brian, yeah, there was some healthy discussion going on by the chord I touched. Clearly sensitive, the pie chart thing. And yeah, so Perceptual Edge, that's Stephen Few's website. It has a lot of good material. His book, it's kind of my Bible. I'm looking up because it's my bookshelf up there. Information Dashboard Design. Really cool. All right, so Jen. All right, Jen, do I have you on the call? Is it working? Can I hear you? Oh, well. It seems I have somebody in the call. C. Napoli 3. Doesn't seem like Jen, unless you use that handle, Jen. No audio, it says. All right. Well, I'll hang on that call. Oh wait. Okay. We have a new caller. And Jen, is that you? Am I talking to you? Oh gosh, no, it doesn't seem to have audio. See if you can. There should be that button, join audio or something should pop up. I don't know why the audio. It doesn't even seem to be giving you a chance to join the audio. Dang it. All right. Hey, so I'm going to hang out on the link that I sent you. So, Jen, if you are able to call, we'll get to talk. But I'm going to end the the YouTube Talk Power BI Live. I want to thank all the Learn Power BI students, especially Nick Duvall. Folks, find him on LinkedIn, connect to him. Works in the oil and gas industry in Houston. And so I want to thank all of the students who came in and everybody who joined on YouTube. All right, my friends. I'll see you later. I'll see you next time. Make sure to subscribe, click the bell. And Jen, I will hang out on the call for a bit in case you're able to dial in and we can talk. Awesome, guys. Take care.